What do you do when your family's legacy starts falling apart right under your nose and you're the last to see it? Trent Lawson stood in the back of one of his own cinemas, hidden in a red Usher vest and a name tag that read Kyle. His real identity, CEO of a small but growing chain of 7 theaters, was buried under a salt and pepper wig, contacts, and a few extra pounds added by a fake belly. No one here had ever met him. His father had passed the business down 3 years ago, and Trent had been running things from the top floor of corporate ever since, until the complaints started. Patrons weren't returning. Reviews tanked. One location in particular, the Westbrook Theater, had more red flags than the others combined. But the district manager's updates never matched what customers were saying. Something felt off. So, Trent signed himself up as a temp usher through a staffing agency, something he could swing since the company outsourced most entry-level hires. No one at Westbrook would know what he looked like. He'd never stepped foot in the place. It was a Saturday night, busiest shift of the week, and Trent was tossed right into the chaos. "Hey, new guy," a voice barked. "Don't stand there like a statue. Theater 4 needs cleanup. Popcorn everywhere." Trent turned to see a tall man in his 40s, wearing a wrinkled manager badge that read Damon. His tone sharp, his expression tired, like he hated being there. "Got it," Trent replied. He grabbed a broom and headed to Theater 4. The place was a mess: popcorn on the floor, spilled soda near the front row. Trent got to work. As he swept, he watched a young red-haired girl in a staff shirt rush past the theater door, balancing a tower of drinks on a tray. She looked maybe 19, moving like she was on fire. "Excuse me," a woman's voice called out from the hallway. Trent stepped out and saw a mother holding her son's hand. "Sorry to bother you," she said. "We sat in Theater 6, but the seats were sticky and the screens got a weird flicker. We mentioned it to the front desk, but the guy up there, he just blew us off." Trent nodded. "I'll let someone know. Thanks for telling me." He walked back to the lobby where Damon stood, arms crossed, watching the monitors. "Damon," Trent said carefully, "a guest just told me about a flickering screen in Theater 6 and sticky seats." Damon didn't even look at him. "So? They said they brought it up before, but yeah. I heard them," Damon cut in. "They're just one of those people who complain about everything. You try keeping this place together with half a staff. They can go watch somewhere else if they don't like it." Trent froze. "They've got a kid with them," he said, trying to keep his voice level. "Maybe we can at least offer them a refund or move them." "You're here to sweep popcorn, not run customer service," Damon snapped. "Don't overstep." Trent backed off, jaw tight. He walked away, but his stomach twisted. That wasn't just lazy. That was hostile. The girl from earlier, her name tag read Valerie, was now behind the concessions counter, frantically making popcorn and juggling orders alone. A line stretched around the corner. "Where's the second concessions person?" Trent asked her quietly when there was a brief lull. "Called out again," she said without looking up. "Third time this week. Damon won't approve anyone else for training. Says we gotta make it work." "You okay?" She hesitated. "I mean, no. But what am I supposed to do?" A loud bang echoed from the hallway. Someone had kicked a trash bin over. From the shouts, a customer was arguing with Damon. "I paid $50 for this, and you can't even clean the seats?" the man yelled. "Like I told your wife," Damon barked back. "If you want a refund, call corporate. I'm not your babysitter." Trent walked back out just in time to see the man storm off with his kid, a look of disgust on his face. Valerie was watching too. "Does he always talk to people like that?" Trent asked her quietly. She nodded. "Pretty much. We've lost regulars over it. But no one does anything. I don't think anyone up top cares." Trent didn't say a word. He just stared at the door that had just slammed shut behind the unhappy family. That night, as he cleaned the last theater, Trent sat down for a second. His back ached. His knees hurt. And for the first time in a while, he felt ashamed. He'd let this happen. This was his company. And now he was seeing it with his own eyes. Tomorrow, he'd be back for another shift. But he wouldn't be sweeping popcorn forever. By the time Trent arrived for his second shift, it was clear the dysfunction at Westbrook wasn't a fluke, it was routine. He walked in through the employee entrance just before noon for a mid-shift start. Valerie was already there, restocking candy behind concessions with a stiff shoulder and a limp in her step. She glanced up, gave a tired nod, then went back to sorting boxes without a word. A new scratch on her forearm caught Trent's eye, likely from moving supplies in the cramped backroom. No one else was helping her. Damon wasn't at the front desk. Instead, a young man named Jay held the register, his eyes darting nervously between customers and the receipt printer. The line grew faster than he could process orders, and by the time Trent grabbed a refill bucket and headed toward Theater 5, a woman was already complaining about waiting too long for a soda. Inside Theater 5, the air was too warm. The AC droned weakly overhead. As Trent swept popcorn off the aisle steps, a couple seated near the middle called out to him. "Hey man, is it always this hot in here?" the man asked, fanning his shirt. "I'll check," Trent replied, already suspecting no one would be able to fix it today. He headed into the service hallway and found the thermostat panel mounted behind a locked acrylic cover. A faded sticky note was slapped across it, "Do not touch, broken." He returned to the lobby. Damon had reappeared, leaning against the wall near the arcade machines and scrolling on his phone. "Theater 5's AC is busted," Trent said, keeping his tone neutral. "Yeah, I know," Damon muttered without looking up. "You got someone coming to fix it?" "Maintenance already put in a ticket last week. Corporate probably hasn't approved it yet." Trent hesitated. "Should we let the guests know before they walk in?" Damon looked up then, finally. "You think people care? They're here for the movie, not the weather." Trent didn't respond. There was no logic to argue with, just indifference. A young woman in a dark blue blouse pushed through the front doors, holding a folded piece of paper. She walked straight to the counter where Jay was now visibly shaking as he tried to void a Miskey ticket. "Hi," she said, voice firm. "I'm from the local paper. I've gotten 3 emails this month about this location. I'd like to speak to whoever's in charge today." Jay froze, eyes wide. Damon walked over, slow and casual. "That'd be me," he said. "What's this about?" She handed over the paper. "We've received reports of poor sanitation, broken equipment, and employees being yelled at in front of customers. We'd like a comment." Damon laughed once, short and sharp. "You're taking complaints from teenagers and grumpy moviegoers seriously?" Trent watched the reporter's face tighten. "I'm taking patterns seriously," she said. "Especially when kids working here say they're afraid to speak up." Damon scoffed. "They should be afraid, half of them barely show up. You want to write something? Write about how no one wants to work anymore. That's your story." The woman stared at him for a long moment. "Got it," she said quietly. "Thanks for your time." She turned and left. Trent stepped forward. "That really how you want to handle that?" Damon shot him a look. "You think you know better? You've been here 2 days." Trent didn't answer. He just turned and walked back to concessions, where Valerie now stood wiping down the counter, her hands trembling slightly. "You all right?" he asked. She nodded too quickly. "You sure?" She dropped the rag, exhaled. "I heard what that lady said. She's not wrong. You ever talk to corporate about any of this?" Valerie gave a humorless laugh. "They don't take calls from floor staff. I've tried. They just loop me back to Damon." Trent nodded, jaw tight. "Anyone else been here longer than a few months?" "Tamika," Valerie said, pointing toward the ticket stub station. "She's been here a year. Only reason she's lasted is she's got 2 kids and no backup plan." Trent walked over to Tamika, a woman in her early 30s with tired eyes and a polite smile that didn't reach them. "Hey," he said. "I'm Kyle. Just started yesterday." "I know," she said. "You're the first newbie who didn't quit mid-shift in a while." "Really? Last one left during a double feature. Said he couldn't take being yelled at over nacho cheese." Trent chuckled softly. "Can I ask you something?" "Off the record." Tamika nodded once. "Is it always like this?" She didn't answer right away. Then she looked him in the eye. "I've seen Damon tell a kid to mop vomit without gloves. I've seen him call a girl too slow for front of house and stick her scrubbing toilets for a week. I've seen him dock hours when people speak up. So yeah, it's always like this." Trent felt his stomach turn. Why hasn't anyone reported him? To who? HR's a voicemail. District manager's his cousin. That's why he's still here? Trent didn't react. He just nodded, thanked her, and walked away. That evening, a group of teenagers came in. One of them, a boy with Down syndrome, was clearly excited. He wore a superhero shirt and carried a bag of gummy bears. As they waited in line, the group laughed and joked. Trent watched from a few feet away as Damon stepped behind the counter, clearly irritated that Jay had stepped away for a restroom break. "Let's move it along," Damon said to the group. "This isn't a summer camp." The boy stepped forward to order but stumbled over his words. Damon rolled his eyes. "Spit it out, buddy. We got people waiting." The line went silent. Trent's hands clenched at his sides. The boy's friend stepped up, gently guided him back. "We'll just go somewhere else," she said quietly. Damon shrugged and turned to the next customer. Trent walked around the counter, stood right in front of him. "What did you just say to that kid?" Damon raised a brow. He couldn't order. "I kept the line moving." "That's not what I asked." Damon leaned closer. "You don't run this place. You're a temp usher. Or are you forgetting that?" Trent didn't say another word. He walked into the office, shut the door, and pulled out his phone. He made 3 calls. 1 to the regional HR lead, 1 to the company's legal team, and 1 to the executive assistant he trusted most. Then he stepped back into the lobby and walked straight to the group of teenagers, who were still near the exit. "Hey," he said gently, "I saw what happened. That was completely unacceptable. I'm so sorry. If you'll stay a few minutes, I'll make this right." They looked confused, but nodded. He turned and faced the rest of the staff. "Everyone," he said, loud enough to carry through the lobby. "My name is Trent Lawson. I'm the CEO of this company." All motion stopped. Damon blinked. "What?" Trent stepped forward, voice steady. "I've been undercover here since yesterday. I've seen enough." "Damon, you're done. Effective immediately. You can't fire me, you're right." "I can't. But HR and legal are waiting for you in the conference call I just set up. You'll be escorted out after the call ends. And yes, everything you've done has been documented." Damon's face flushed, but he said nothing else. Valerie covered her mouth. Jay looked like he'd just been unshackled. Trent turned to the staff. "I owe all of you an apology. What you've been dealing with, what's been allowed to happen here, is inexcusable. Starting tonight, this changes." He looked at the guests still waiting, then back at the teens who'd almost walked out. "And we start by treating our customers and each other with basic human respect." No one moved. Then Tamika stepped forward and nodded. "About time." Trent nodded back, and for the first time in a long while, he felt like a leader again. Trent arrived at Westbrook the next morning dressed in a plain button-up and slacks, no wig, no vest, no disguise. He didn't walk in through the employee entrance. He entered through the front doors just before opening, the same way customers would. The lobby was quiet, the lights still warming up. Tamika was clattering around near the ticket stand, prepping scanners. She stopped when she saw him. "You're really back?" she asked. "I'm not leaving until this place gets fixed," Trent said. "But I'm not here to hover. I'm here to start repairing." She didn't answer right away, just nodded and went back to setting up. Trent walked to the back office where Damon's things had already been cleared. HR had completed the termination paperwork overnight, and the district manager, now under review himself, was being removed from oversight of Westbrook. For now, a temporary operations lead from another district would handle logistics remotely while Trent stayed on site. He stepped into the break room. Valerie was heating a burrito in the microwave, her left arm wrapped in a compression bandage. She looked over her shoulder, cautious. "I'm not here to make things weird," Trent said gently. "You're the CEO," she said. "It's already weird." "Fair," he admitted. "But I wasn't kidding. I saw too much to walk away." She leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "So what now? You going to bring in a bunch of new people? Shut us down." "No shutdown. Not if I can help it. But I am reassessing everything. Staffing, hours, maintenance, training, all of it. You're going to need more than one visit to fix this." "I know," Trent said. "That's why I'm staying for the week. I want to hear from everybody." She hesitated, then said, "If you're serious, you should talk to Jay. He's on edge. He won't say anything unless someone asks." "Thanks," Trent said. "I will." Jay was restocking lids at concessions when Trent approached him. He looked up fast, startled. "Relax," Trent said. "Can we talk for a second?" Jay wiped his hands on his apron and followed him to a quieter corner behind the soda machine. "I wanted to ask about yesterday," Trent said. "You looked overwhelmed." Jay nodded once, eyes on the floor. "What's been going on?" Jay's voice was low. "I've been here 6 months. I was excited at first. I thought I'd move up, get cross-trained. But every time I asked, Damon said I wasn't assertive enough. Said I didn't have the presence to handle more." Trent frowned. "Did he ever explain what that meant?" Jay looked away. "Not really. Just said people wouldn't take me seriously. I think it's because I'm quiet. Quiet doesn't mean incapable." Jay's shoulders relaxed a little, but he didn't speak. "What do you want to be doing?" Trent asked. "I want to work projection. I've been studying how the systems work. I even wrote a troubleshooting guide because half the time the older projectors glitch and no one knows what to do." "You wrote your own guide?" "Yeah. Damon told me to stop wasting time." Trent kept his expression steady. "Can I see it?" Jay blinked. "You want to read it?" "I want to understand what you've built. If it can help, we should be using it." Jay reached into his backpack behind the counter and pulled out a slim black notebook with diagrams, bullet points, and color-coded tabs. Trent flipped through it, genuinely impressed. "This is detailed," he said. "You did this on your own time?" Jay nodded. "You're not going back to the register today," Trent said. "I'm moving you to projection training. Starting now." Jay stared at him for a beat, then said, "Seriously?" "As long as you're comfortable," Trent said. "I'll sit in with you and have another employee cover front of house." Jay looked relieved but cautious. "What about coverage?" "There's barely enough people." "I'm working on it," Trent said. "You focus on training." Trent found Valerie near the ticket scanner and asked if she could cover concessions for a few hours. She agreed, though she winced when she lifted the soda crates. "You're still hurt," Trent noted. "Why didn't you mention that earlier?" "I can still work." "That's not the point. You shouldn't be lifting anything today." "I'll handle the crates." "You don't have to." "I do," Trent said. "Because I let things get this bad." She didn't argue. In the afternoon, a group of students came in a school trip, judging by the lanyards. Tamika flagged Trent down. "They booked this through the district office," she said. "But we didn't get a heads up. No extra staff. No prep." "How many?" "Over 40. Trent exhaled. "All right. Let's set up a self-serve station. Popcorn bags, bottled drinks, limited options. I'll manage the line. You stay on tickets." Tamika nodded and they moved fast. Trent set up the folding table near concessions, laid out pre-filled popcorn bags and drinks from the cooler, and created a cash-only line to speed up checkout. As students poured in, Trent directed them calmly, making sure the flow didn't jam. Occasionally he spotted Valerie darting between counters, her arms stiff, sweat forming on her temples. He caught her eye and waved her over. "Take 5, he said. "I'm fine. You haven't sat down all day." "I'll sit when it's over." "Sit now," he said. "That's an order." She blinked, then sat on the bench near the arcade machines, breathing hard. The group passed through without a hitch. After they were seated, Trent turned to Jay, now behind the projection booth window, adjusting lens focus. "How's it going up there?" he asked. Jay gave a thumbs up and nodded toward the screen. "Fixed the alignment drift. The left panel was off by 3 degrees. "Good catch," Trent said. Jay looked more confident already. Later that evening, as the rush died down, Trent walked the building. The HVAC unit above Theater 5 was still malfunctioning, so he called the facilities vendor directly and negotiated a service visit within 48 hours. The ticket printer that had jammed earlier was replaced with a spare from storage. He logged all the repairs in a shared dashboard and gave Tamika access. In the break room, Valerie was finishing her burrito from lunch, finally off her feet. "I know this doesn't fix everything," Trent said. "But I hope today felt different." "It did," she said. "Still feels fragile, though, like it could break again. That's why I'm not leaving after this week. I'm setting up a regional support team, actual field managers who rotate through locations and report directly to me. No more distant oversight." She didn't respond right away. Then she said, "You're really trying. I should have tried sooner." She gave a small nod and stood. Let me know if you need help with closing. I will. As the last customers left and the staff began cleaning, Trent stayed behind the counter with Tamika, balancing the drawer. You've been holding this place together, he said. Quietly, without help. I didn't have a choice. Now you do, he said. I want to offer you the assistant manager role. You'll get training, a raise, and a say in how this place runs. She stared at him, stunned. Me? You've earned it. She nodded slowly. All right, let's see what we can fix. Westbrook wouldn't change overnight. But the foundation was shifting because now the people who actually cared had a voice. By Tuesday afternoon, word had spread quietly among the staff. The man who'd been sweeping popcorn on Saturday was now walking the building with a clipboard and a purpose. Trent didn't issue grand speeches. He moved deliberately, observing, asking questions only once, and writing everything down. Changes were underway, but he didn't announce them. He implemented them. The first arrived in the form of a woman named Celeste, a field manager from another region with a calm voice and a habit of listening more than she spoke. She arrived just after lunch, introduced herself to each employee individually, and spent the next 2 hours shadowing Tamika and Valerie, asking about their daily routines and bottlenecks. She never once stood with her arms crossed or barked instructions. She nodded, responded with specific follow-up questions, and jotted notes on a tablet. Trent met her in the office during the early evening lull. How bad was it? He asked. Celeste adjusted her glasses. You already know, but I'll say this: the staff isn't broken. They're just exhausted and ignored. Give them structure and a reason to stay, and this place will recover. He nodded. We're setting up a rotating district support schedule. You'll be here twice a week until we stabilize. She didn't hesitate. Understood. Meanwhile, Jay had settled into the projection booth like he'd lived there for years. He ran his first solo test screening that afternoon, calibrating the lens without a hitch. When Trent checked in, Jay was standing with his guide open, updating a section based on what he'd learned from an older projector model. I flagged a voltage drop on screen 2, he said. It's not urgent, but the image might start dimming in a few weeks if we don't clean the filters. You're documenting it? Already logged it. Trent nodded. We'll build maintenance timelines based on your notes. Starting next quarter, every site gets a copy of this. Jay blinked, then nodded slowly, almost like he wasn't sure he'd heard right. That night, attendance picked up. The early evening showings included a local film festival short block, which had been ignored under the previous manager. Trent had reached out personally to the organizers on Sunday, apologized for the past coordination issues, and offered discounted rates to bring them back. The audience trickled in, mostly students, local artists, and a few curious regulars. Tamika ran tickets while Valerie managed concessions, occasionally rotating to check restrooms and theater cleanliness. There were still only 4 employees on shift, but with everyone aligned and roles clearly divided, the operation moved smoother than it had all week. Trent took over usher duties for the screenings, flashlight in hand, checking that doors closed properly, that the sound mix was balanced, and that the crowd respected the quiet zones. Outside Theater 3, a man in his late 50s wearing a blazer approached him. You work here? He asked. Yes, sir. Can I help you? I'm one of the filmmakers. I've been bringing students to the series for years. Last time we were here, it was chaos. Tonight? Night and day. Trent nodded. Appreciate you saying so. I don't know what changed, the man said, but keep it up. This kind of space matters. After the crowd settled, Trent stepped into the staff hallway and found Valerie at the supply closet, unloading paper towels with one hand, the other hand braced against the rack for balance. You should be off your feet, he said. I'll sit after this. You said that yesterday. She didn't argue, just lowered the box slowly and leaned back against the wall. I haven't had a job where someone actually asked if I was okay before this week, she said. You should have never had to wait that long for basic decency. She looked down at her shoes. I almost quit, last month. I had the email ready, but I needed the paycheck, and I didn't want to leave Tamika alone. Trent folded his arms. What would have made you stay if things hadn't changed? Someone paying attention. He nodded once. You're not invisible anymore. Later that evening, as the final screenings began, Celeste pulled Trent aside. There's a pattern with the Saturday night team, she said. Damon overscheduled the floor one weekend and retaliated when they asked for breaks. 2 of the high schoolers haven't come back since. They were told to toughen up or not come back at all. Names? Already forwarded them to HR. But there's more. One of the former ushers, Avery, filed a complaint 6 weeks ago about being taunted by Damon in front of guests. Something about her hair and not looking polished enough. HR closed it without follow-up. Trent's expression hardened. Get me her contact info. Celeste nodded. I'll set it up. He stood silent for a beat, then said, we're reopening that complaint. And we're auditing every closed file from the last 12 months. The final show let out just after 10. The team moved swiftly, sweeping, locking up, restocking what little was left for the next day. Jay stayed late to recalibrate Screen 4. Tamika ran end-of-day counts while Valerie updated the cleaning logs. As the lobby cleared out, Trent gathered the team. I owe you all something, he said. Not just an apology, a promise. This isn't a one-week cleanup. This is permanent. We're rebuilding how we lead, how we listen, and how we support each of you. No one spoke right away. Then Tamika stepped forward. You're not just saying that because of what happened? I'm saying it because I failed you, Trent said. And I'm not doing that again. Jay spoke next. You're the first person from corporate I've seen in person. Ever. That's going to change, Trent said. Field leaders will rotate through every site every week. We're also launching a direct reporting line that bypasses management. Every employee can report concerns anonymously, and they'll be reviewed by a real person with decision power. Valerie shifted her stance. And if someone retaliates, they're gone. No warnings. Tamika crossed her arms. What about staffing? New hiring protocol starts next week. We're overhauling training, raising base pay, and adding an internal referral bonus. If you refer someone who stays 60 days, you get a cash bonus. She raised an eyebrow. You're serious? I am. He looked around the group. You've all held this together under conditions no one should have had to endure. You didn't just survive, you showed up, kept the place running, and protected each other. Starting tomorrow, you're not doing that alone. Jay glanced at Valerie, then spoke again. Are we getting new uniforms? These still smell like fryer oil. Trent smiled. Catalogs already ordered. Pick your sizes tomorrow. They laughed, not a loud laugh, but a real one. The kind that hadn't lived in this building for a long time. Closing took another hour. Trent stayed until the lights dimmed, helping reset chairs, wiping down counters, and walking the perimeter himself. He didn't leave through the front. He stayed until the last key turned in the back door. And when he stepped into the lot under the flickering street lamps, he didn't feel like a visitor overseeing damage. He felt like a leader rebuilding something worth saving.